Welcome back to Findmypast from home. I hope you're all very well today. I hope you've all had a good week. My computer decided to tell me that my mouse battery was low about 2 seconds ago, so I guess we'll just plug that in. And hopefully you can all hear me okay, because my headphones decided to have a bit of a meltdown as well. Can I get a thumbs up from Liam that he can hear me? Can we get a thumbs up, Liam? Can you hear me, Liam? Can you hear me? Oh, can you all hear me okay? I just wanted to check. Yes, okay, John can hear me. That's great. Okay, good. I'm pleased. Okay. I've just come from a meeting, so that's why I'm a little bit frazzled, but I hope you're all very, very well. Please do say hello in the comments. Let me know how your week's been. Yeah. What are we going to do today? We are going to look at new records. We're going to do a little tutorial that I prepared for you on a certain particular search technique. We're going to have a look at some records that you might have missed, and in particular, if you've got ancestors from the Liverpool area, you might want to be checking these out. Yeah, that's what we're going to do today. We've got lots to get through, including new records as well. It's an absolute pleasure to be back because I was on annual leave for a bit. And then we had a bit of a break last week. And of course, last week as well, myself and Liam, who is in the comments, do say hi to Liam today. We had the incredible pleasure of meeting some of you in person for what I think was the first time, actually. And you have no idea how wonderful that was for me. And I'm sure Liam will agree as well. We had an afternoon of family history fun, genealogy talks, and family history reveals and things like that at the Savoy Hotel in London. It was a really, really fantastic event. It was only attended by a small number of people, about 45 in all, but we will be sharing a sort of highlight reel of the event, hopefully early next week. So keep an eye out for that, and you can see a little bit behind the scenes of what went on. I'm very excited. So yeah, I did get to meet a few of you, a few of the community members' names who I see your names pop up in the comments almost every week, and it was just so lovely for me to meet you in person. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to call anybody out or embarrass anybody unnecessarily. But it was just so lovely to meet you. And then in particular, there was one person right at the end who came up to me and said, "You've no idea how much Findmypast from home and Fridays Live means to me." And they started crying, and then I started crying because it means an awful lot to me as well. Because we started doing these more often when lockdown started, and like all of you, I was at home. I worked throughout the entire pandemic, and being able to come on and chat to you all every week was a real lifesaver actually for me. So yeah, it was just really nice. It was just really nice, basically. I'm going to stop gushing over this now. I'll say hello to some of you in the comments. Okay, so we've got Georgia with us. Hello. We've got Matthew, Peter from a bright Sandhurst. Do you know what? It was very, I don't know if it's still nice in Edinburgh because I've had my office door closed for the past hour or so, but it was very nice over lunch. I went for a little walk with my hubby. Hello, I'm so pleased you enjoyed it, Eileen. It was so great to meet you. Oh, I loved meeting all of you guys. It was so nice. We've got Paul with us, we've got Roxanne, Shana, hello from the West Midlands, Claire joining us from Adelaide. Oh, you went to Government House to pay your respects to the Queen and write a condolence book. That's really sweet, really nice. I'll tell you what, it was very strange because I was away in France when the Queen passed away and came back to Edinburgh, and I was only in Edinburgh for about 7 hours before I then had to go to London for the Savoy event. So I was in Edinburgh while her coffin was there resting at St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh, and then I was also in London when she was moved. Yeah, it was just quite strange. Unfortunately, didn't have time to go pay my respects myself. Oh, lots of you here today. John said it was your 40th last Monday, went away for 3 days looking for family graves in Cork. That sounds fab. Next time you can invite me, I'll come with you. Sue says, afternoon, Ellie and Liam from a sunny Wantage in Oxfordshire, staying with my brother, and he's listening too. Hello, Sue's brother. This is really nice. Get more people in. This is great. Yes, Karen, I heard this sad news as well, that Hilary Mantel had sadly died today. That popped up on my phone earlier. I'd never read anything by her, but I have watched Wolf Hall because it's very, very good, and I think they've also turned it into a stage production, I think. Yes, delighted that you can all hear me, because I was just having a little bit of a technological meltdown just as we were going live, which is very poor timing. Hello, Daphne, lovely to see you. It was so nice to meet you last week as well. We've got Rosie with us too. This is lovely, fantastic. Lots of you here today. Wonderful. Okay, so what are we going to do? Oh, before I get started, there is one thing I wanted to mention. Okay, so I am on the hunt, or we are on the hunt, for your mysteries solved by the 1921 census, okay? Now, these can be long-standing brick walls, family myths, stories about your home that you've uncovered, or even, a puzzling riddle that, was from your town, your village, your community that you managed to solve using the census. Did it unlock a family mystery? Was it a piece of the puzzle that helped you to complete the picture? Or did you just end up with more questions than you had before? Because that is very often the case as well. We want to hear all about it. We want to know what you found, what your ancestors were doing, where they were doing it, and also if it changed your earlier preconceptions of this ancestor or these people. Did the 1921 census change that in any way for you? So basically, we want to hear all about this. Here's the fun bit. With your permission, you could see your story featured in the press. That would be really exciting too. And also, everybody that submits a story to us before the 3rd of October will be entered into a random prize draw to win a 3-month pro subscription to Findmypast. Isn't that exciting? All you have to do is either email your story to discoveries@findmypast.com, and that's the email address you can see on screen right now. Or Liam has also shared a link to a blog post. There's also a form that you can enter your discovery on that blog post. So there's 2 different ways you can do it, and both will be counted in the random prize draw. If you've already got a subscription, we'll just extend it. That's not a problem. But if you've not already got a subscription, that would take you through to the new year. And for many of us, I think Christmas is a time where we do a lot of family history research, because we're, sometimes around family members in normal circumstances, and we can talk and share memories and ask questions and things like that. So actually, having a Findmypast subscription around Christmas time would be really useful for you, I think. So yeah, drop us your discoveries. I want to hear all about them. If you don't want to enter into the draw, so to speak, but you still want to share, please feel free to just pop them into the comments. That's also absolutely fine. Okay, I'm going to have to not use my actual mouse because it's currently charging. We are just going to have to lean forward and do it on the trackpad instead. So I apologize. Oh, good, Matthew's rejoined us. Yes, okay. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's do some new records, shall we? Let's have a gander at some new records. Okay, so in terms of what we've added this week, I actually made a slide for this 1921 census discoveries thing and I forgot to show it. Oh, okay. New this week, records for Hampshire, mostly for the parish of Selborne in Hampshire. We've added around 2,500 baptisms, just over 1,000 marriages, and 1,500 burials. And what's quite cool about these records, because I enjoy doing these, you can almost practice searching for a particular family through the records. You could find one of them in a baptism, getting baptized. You could find them getting married. You could then find their children, and then you could also maybe even find when they were buried as well. I often find, I don't think I have any Hampshire ancestors, but you can almost use these records just to practice your techniques of tracking a family through time. Obviously, this particular set of records would only work if they stayed in the same area, if they stayed in Hampshire. But yeah, it's good practice, I think. I went and had a look, and I found these records. So I found the 3 children born to Howard William and Emily Ellen Acourt, I think that's pronounced, or a court, might be a court. So you've got Gladys, Mabel, and Frederick. I also found out that Frederick served in the Royal Artillery during the Second World War, that he married in 1940, and that he died in 1994. Here is the family in the 1921 census as well. Next slide, there we go. I learned that Howard was a milk roundman. They had another daughter called Phyllis. It also tells me that Frederick was recorded as 5 years and 3 days old. And of course, this was crossed out by the enumerator because they wanted the age in years and the age in months. But Howard decided to fill it out for Frederick that he was 5 years and 3 days old. And so we actually know that he would have been born 5 years and 3 days before that. So we get his exact date of birth in effect, which is really nice. I absolutely love it when records like this are filled out incorrectly. We talked about this quite a lot at the Savoy event last week because you get extra details that you wouldn't normally get. I absolutely love it when this happens. Actually, before I move on, I'm just going to pop the question of the week up as well, because I forgot to mention we're going to do question of the week. I want to know this week, what was your most unexpected family history find ever? The one that made your jaw drop, the one that made you stop in your tracks, the one that you really did not in a million years fathom you would find, because it was just so utterly unexpected. These are the ones I want to hear about this week. So keep popping those in the chat and we will go through those in a bit. Cool. Let's move on to newspapers, shall we? Okay, so we've got a lot to get through this week. Our newspaper team, as usual, are absolutely smashing it. We've added a staggering 633,000 pages in the last week. They are doing so well with all their scanning just now. And I was actually in a meeting. Was it yesterday? Was it in this meeting? No, I think it was Wednesday. And our content licensing team, headed up by Mary, was talking about what we've got coming online in the next couple of months, and she was telling us what newspapers we're going to be bringing online, and I can't tell you what they are, but I'm very excited for quite a few of them. One in particular I looked at and I was just like, yes, give me all of that. I don't know why I'm teasing you with this because I can't tell you what they are, but know that we've got lots more coming, basically. So we've updated 23 titles this week, and we've got a full list there. There's also a full list available on blog too. I have removed some of the years from 2 of these newspapers because there was a huge long list of years and I could not fit them on the slide. So just check the blog for those. And also we've added 3 new titles. So the first one is the Church and State Gazette for London. This was first published in 1842, and despite its title, it actually had a much more moderate view than the English Churchman and the Guardian, and those were the 2 leading high church newspapers of this time. And what you'll find if you have a look at this newspaper is that the articles were very long, like really long. Like they could, for some reason, just could not be concise. Next up, we've got the Christian World. This was first published in 1857, which is around the time the previous title was just about ceasing publication. It was a combination of a commentary on news, but at its heart was, of course, its faith, and it included readings and things like that if you were spending a Sunday at home. There's also the Potteries Advertiser. Now, when I first saw the title of this newspaper, I thought it was something to do with the pottery industry and maybe selling pots and things like that. It's actually not, but there is a clue in the title because, you think the pottery industry in the UK and you think of sort of the Staffordshire area. And of course, it was actually for Staffordshire. This is for 1994, and it used to be delivered, I think, weekly to certain towns in the Staffordshire area. It's sort of a weekly tabloid, and it was originally founded, it was just called The Advertiser. I'm not sure why it became the Potteries Advertiser, but I think that's a great title, if a little bit, I don't know. I think it led me down the garden path a little bit, thinking it was going to be about the pottery industry. But hey ho, it got me interested. So there we go. Okay, I got through those very quickly. Oh well. Should we do question of the week? I'm just going to pop it back on screen, and there we go. And you've all been adding them, so thank you very much. We've got lots to get through here. Okay, so I'm going to scroll back up, and I'm just going to see if I've missed any at the top first. I don't think I have, because I should have added the question of the week right at the beginning, and I did not, so that is my own fault. Gina says, I was surprised to find that the father of my 3 times great-grandfather married the mother of my 3 times great-grandmother. I can't picture that in my head because I just struggle with things like that. I would actually have to see it on a page. I actually came across this is on a sort of related note. I came across a riddle on social media yesterday evening, and it was something along the lines of like, nobody can answer this riddle. And it was something like, Teresa's mother's daughter is your something or other. What is your relationship to Teresa? And I said it to my husband, and we both struggled to work it out. But if anybody knows what I'm talking about and can find it, it was a real head scratcher. And I feel like I needed to draw. I needed the family tree. Basically. Okay, right. Okay, I'm scrolling to find more. Scrolling. Yes, Jessie is on holiday, but Niall did the blog this week, so you can thank Niall for that. Daphne says, most unexpected family history find was that I have too many relations. Too many relations and not enough time, I find. Okay. Now, Susan actually says, you're in Canada for the first time since you've begun these sessions. Oh, that's so great. Whereabouts are you? What are you doing? Are you on holiday? Are you visiting family? Are you on a family history trip? I want to know all the details, please. Thank you very much. Yes, Liam, angry enumerator scoring things out. That actually gives me a lot of joy. For some reason, I just enjoy seeing it. And especially when the enumerators then go and add details that were not even added by the head of the household. I find that really interesting too, because for some reason the enumerator just knows these things. I don't get it. Okay. Oh, Kim says, it was the 101st anniversary of my great-grandmother's husband being found in the River Lee on Wednesday. Found him with his wrists and feet tied. The verdict was suicide. What? That doesn't add up to me. That sounds a bit more murdery, actually. I don't know what everybody else thinks. I think that sounds murdery. Roxanne says, I recently found tobacco trade cards from my 3 times great-grandfather's cigar and tobacco shop in New York City. From what I found, it seems the shop closed in 1908. That's cool. I also wonder if there's any newspaper mentions of that place as well. Sue says, I found a picture of my 3 times great-grandfather, and he looks a lot like your brother. Is that the same brother that's with you today? I sort of want to see evidence of this. I want to see the side by side. Maybe you could pop it on your Facebook page and tag us in it, because I really want to see. Yes, Victoria, I am. I absolutely am. And I will never change. Ingrid says, my great-grandmother had the shortest pregnancy in history, married in September 1903, and their first child arrived 2.5 months later. Sure. The shortest pregnancy in history, sure. You guys crack me up. Gina says, I was surprised to find, oh, I've read that one already. Sorry, Gina. Shana says, my 4 times great-grandfather was nearly an axe murderer. How can you be nearly an axe murderer? Oh, wait, you're going to explain. He tried to kill his estranged wife, but failed, fractured her skull in 2 places with an axe head, and then went to kill himself, but failed to cut his own throat too. I don't know why I'm laughing. That's actually awful, but I'm sort of pleased they didn't die. It's just the way you phrased it as well, as nearly an axe murderer. Maybe I just have a very dark sense of humour. I think you sort of have to have a bit of a dark sense of humour to be in this line of work, I think. Karen says, my first cousin's 4 times removed father-in-law let Napoleon go. I love this one. Was tried and found innocent as well. I love that. See, I don't have any of that in my family tree. I don't have any connections to these famous people and these famous stories. I really, really wish I did. I think that would be really cool. Kim says, I've learned to expect the unexpected. My ancestors no longer surprise me with their antics. I think this is a really good attitude to have, actually, because you honestly never know what you're going to find. It could be something that most people would actually consider quite mundane. But then you could come across, my grandfather was nearly an axe murderer. Or wasn't your grandfather? It was a bit further back than that. Anyway, you never know what you're going to find. Susan says, my family story was that my 2 times great-grandfather left her husband and moved home to her parents with my great-grandfather. We just assumed it was a permanent move. I think there was more there. Susan, if you could add that and we can come back to it. Okay. David says, discovering my great-grandmother was twice in Bedlam for several months, postpartum depression in 1890, a household worry in 1913. So very sad to read through the medical notes. Goodness me. I actually don't know. What is household worry? I might have to look that up. Unless somebody could tell me, that would be amazing. But I imagine that made for quite sober reading, actually. Sobering reading. Yeah. I hope she was okay after that. I hope that she came out, and yes, very sad to read things like that. Ellen says, the connection to the Billington family, 9th and 10th great-grands of the Mayflower, had never ever thought that was a possibility. That's really cool. There's a couple of people at Findmypast who've got connections to the Mayflower, actually. So I think our CEO is one of them. And I think there's somebody else at Findmypast as well who's got a Mayflower connection, which is quite cool. Again, I don't have anything like that. Oh, Matthew knows exactly what I'm talking about, that riddle that I mentioned. I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was something like, Teresa's daughter is your daughter's mother. I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it's really confusing. And I genuinely just felt like I needed to draw the tree to actually get the answer. Here we go. Thank you, Susan. Not the case. Various censuses show them together again with various admissions for him to the poorhouse. I think this is the thing, isn't it? Sometimes these unexpected discoveries are linked to poorhouses, workhouses, asylums, as they were called then, because we don't quite expect that today. We live in very different times, and then learning that our ancestors could have fallen on hard times like that, you don't expect it. Or you do, but when you find it, it comes as a bit of a shock, I think, and it makes you wonder. I don't know. I think it's quite strange to come across things like that. And actually, that links into the In Case You Missed It record collection that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Anya says, DNA has helped confirm the biological maternal line of my adopted great-grandmother. A whole lot of LDS pioneers who went to Utah in the 1850s, having a relative who fought at Waterloo, a cousin who was the first woman to learn medicine at the University of Toronto. So many great stories. Oh, you're so lucky. These are all really great. Particularly the relative who fought at Waterloo. That's pretty cool. Heather says, discovering my great uncle in an institution 1920 to 42 with a rare genetic condition and getting his records. He was one of the first in the UK diagnosed with, I don't know what that is actually. I don't know what that is. Sorry, Heather. I don't know what that means. If somebody could tell me, I'd appreciate it. Sarah says, discovering my great-grand-uncle was evicted in the 1850s. It's not a story that was passed down in family law. Yeah, I think this is the thing, isn't it? With sort of family myths or family stories that do get passed down, it tends to be the not things like this. This is the thing they would actually rather you forget, I think. Which is why, you know, finding records of this on family history websites and libraries and archives, it just builds up that bigger picture of the ancestor. You know, it's not just the, oh, you know, this is a really great story, but also, you know, this is a less great story, but it's still interesting. It still adds a piece of that puzzle about that ancestor, and you can, you know, that they've become more human, right? They're more relatable. Karen said, it is our 27th wedding anniversary today. Found my 5th great-grandparents got married in the same church 204 years before with no prior family connection. I love that. I love that so much. Oh, yes. I'm glad we're now using the word murdery. I'm going to patent that word. Roxanne says, I found bankruptcy notices in New York Times in 1903, 1905, and 1998, trying to find out more information about on the shop, not sure when they opened. Keep us up to date on that. I'm really interested. I don't think I have any ancestors who owned a business or owned a shop or anything like that. So I'm just going to live through your discoveries, Roxanne. I hope that's okay. Okay, where am I? John says, discovering my great uncle Wilfred Hutton was thought to have been an MI5 agent. So someone was going to assassinate him, but the attempt was foiled. He has a Wikipedia page. The temptation to go and look now while I'm live and actually talking to you all is really strong, but I think that'd be really rude. So I'm just going to have to do that later. Thanks, John. Okay. An ancestor from Hertfordshire died in China. He fought in the Crimea, invalided out, joined the Metropolitan Police, then joined the legation escort, died in a gun accident. Goodness, they travelled a bit. That's actually really interesting. I'd love to know more about that as well. You're sharing some good stories today. My father said that his grandfather went from a small village in Bedford to a small village in East Yorkshire to work. I found him on the 1881 census in the East Yorkshire village. Yay! That was supported then, that family myth. I love it when that happens. It's also really satisfying when you disprove a family myth as well, particularly if it's one that you thought, that doesn't sound right. But it's also, I think, really nice to validate what your relatives have already told you. Like if there was a story and it did turn out to be true, that's actually really satisfying. Georgia says, my grandfather's Merchant Navy record states that he tried to commit suicide on his ship and was subsequently invalided out with a mental instability in 1927. My dad was just a few months old. My grandfather left soon after the marriage. We never knew him, so no idea what help he had, probably none from the Navy. That's really sad. And I'm just thinking about him not having any help, and that's making me even more sad. Oh, yes. I think Liam is right. I think we need a documentary to dive into all of these, because these are fascinating. A mix of, you know, the sad, the unexpected. Thank you very much, Karen. Household worry, money problems and stress from running a home. That would make sense. Thank you very much. Matthew says, finding my great-great-grandfather in the drover's convictions books for being for the London Metropolitan Cattle Market. He was recorded a number of times of being drunk in charge of sheep. Yeah, I've seen similar ones with that, but not for sheep. I think I've seen drunk in charge of a horse, and also drunk in charge of a bicycle. I think I've seen in newspapers before. The drunk in charge of a horse made me chuckle a bit, but it probably wasn't that funny because, you know, probably wasn't funny. But again, that's my dark sense of humor coming out just there. Thank you, Karen. If Teresa's daughter is my daughter's mother, what am I to Teresa? Now, if anybody would like to have a go at this, please feel free, answers in the comments. And I would also love it if you could put your reasoning as well, because my tiny brain just cannot compute riddles. I'm rubbish at riddles, honestly, absolutely rubbish. Right, a couple more, then I must move on. Sarah, I found my great-granddad, a policeman in Manchester who's originally from Lincolnshire, had been married before. His first Welsh wife sadly died young, leaving him with 2 daughters aged 10 and 12. He married again and had 2 more daughters, the youngest being my grandma. I found both wives buried together in Southern Cemetery, Manchester. That's quite strange. He died in 1934 in Cheshire, and I recently found him aged 75 on the 1921 census, working as a gardener, living at the Rope and Anchor Inn. That's really bizarre, the fact that both wives were buried together. Maybe that's just what, you know, maybe he loved them both and wanted them buried together. Was he then buried nearby in the same plot? I really want to know. Oh, look, John found the riddle too. Yes, there are also answers to this riddle. It's multiple choice. So it's grandmother, mother, daughter, granddaughter, or I am Teresa. Yeah, but again, my small brain just can't compute things like this. Thank you very much, Heather. Again, something else I really want to go and open the Wikipedia page for, but it would be really rude of me to just open that and then, you know, just start reading it while you guys are all still here. That would be really rude of me. So I can't really. I'm just gonna have to do it later. Okay. Right, I think we best move on because otherwise I am going to run out of time. But thank you so much for all of those amazing submissions. Again, it just reminds me of the unexpected power of family history, and that you never know what you're going to find. There is always going to be something that will just make your jaw drop. And it might appear not very interesting to somebody else, but you know who you are and who your family are and your relatives. And then if you come across something that sort of doesn't marry with what you already know, that can be quite a sort of shocking experience. Sometimes it can be amusing, sometimes it can be quite unnerving, sometimes it can be quite upsetting. But yeah, you never know what you're going to find. And that's the moral of the story. Okay, next up, I am going to do a quick tutorial. There we go, we'll put that on screen. Now, hopefully my mouse has charged a little bit. So we might be able to, let's just make sure it's connected. I don't think it is. Yes, it is. Wonderful. Okay, so what we're going to look at today in a little mini tutorial is adding multiple records to category searches. So you may already be aware of this little trick, but I often forget it exists. So I thought it would be good to do a little refresher. And actually this came about because I'm helping the customer support team create some beginner content for people that join Findmypast. And they will be sent some beginner content that the customer support team have made. And I've just been editing it, and one of the team, Karen, was talking about this particular search functionality, and I had forgotten it existed. So thank you very much, Karen. I think she's on holiday today, so she's probably not listening, but I'm sure Liam will tell her for me. Okay, so you might be forgiven for thinking that there are only 2 or 3 ways to search on Findmypast. Okay, you can either go to the All Records page, which is here. You can find a particular record collection. So, for example, if you wanted to pick, I don't know, the 1921 census, for example, You can find it there, and you get lots of search fields for that, which is great, really, really handy if you know that you just want to search one collection. But that's only searching one collection. So say you didn't just want to search one collection, okay? The other way is to go up here and go to search all records, for example. And then you can also choose a category as well if you wanted to. You can pick a category, you can pick, I don't know, you could pick census, lands and survey. Oh no, not churches and religion. The mouse is not playing ball. Census, land and surveys, which is there. And then you get some more search fields here. So you can add in another household member, for example. There's a keyword function there. And you can also take that down to subcategory level as well. So say you just wanted to search census, you didn't want to search the electoral registers, you can click onto census and then you're into the subcategory domain there. You can also do that from up here as well. You can change them from here, but you can also change them from over here. So just think if you, for a second, if for some reason you wanted to search for an ancestor, not in just one census, not in all censuses, but more than one, but not all of them. So how would you do that? This is how you do it. Okay. This is the field we want to be looking at here, the record set field. Now, because I've already set it to census, if I click onto browse record set, it's only going to show British censuses, because we've got it set to Britain, on this search here. So let's say that I just wanted to look for my great-grandfather in only the 1911 and 1921 censuses, okay? So I want to search for more than one, but not all of them, because let's say I've already found him in the 1901 census, for example, and I've already found him in the 1939 register. So we can scroll down this and we can do this. So you can actually browse and see what's included here, or you can actually search using this little box, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to check 1911 census and I want to do that search again, but for 1921. And I want to check that as well. So then I just click apply filters. And then what you'll see here is that the two censuses that you want to search are included now in your search. So when you're searching, these are the only record collections you're going to be searching. Now you can add quite a few into these. It does start to look a little bit unwieldy, but you can do it. So then all I do is I then perform my search. So I'm going to search for Ralph Overthrow. And I get 2 results. Woohoo! And there they are. So you've got the 1911 census and you've also got the 1921 census. So that excludes the other British censuses that we have that would come up if you were just searching the entire census subcategory. But it also means that you can track him through different years rather than going to the all record sets, choosing one census and then having to keep repeating that search through the different census years. It's just a little quirk, and if you've not tried it before, give it a go. It might be a slightly different way that you can search. You might find particular things with it. Yeah, just if it can help one person today listening, I will be happy, basically. The other thing to mention as well is that we often do say at Findmypast that you should start your search broad and then add more information in and filter down slowly so you don't miss an important record. So I think this is a good thing to do if you've already searched and you found too many results, or indeed you do want to track a particular person through certain records. So I can also mix this up a bit if I want to. So I can change my search criteria here. So if I wanted to remove the 1911 census, for example, say I've got loads of results and I'm just trying to narrow it down again, I can get rid of things from there. Or if I want to add anything, I can go back to the advanced options and I can add something else in. So for example, I can pick the 1901 census, and look, he appears in that as well, which is really nice. And that's him there, 1901. Okay, so that's how you do it. You can also do this for other record collections and subcategories as well. So for example, if I wanted to do it for military and say I wanted to search all the RAF records, so rather than going to search all record sets and searching each RAF collection one by one, which would be hugely time consuming in my opinion, what you can do instead is that you can go to the military category, you can click browse record set, you can type in RAF. No, it doesn't like RAF, Air Force. And just check all of these, and you can add all of those into your search and make sure that you're searching all of the British Royal Air Force records on Findmypast. I'm also going to add airmen into this too. There we go. Click apply. There we go. And I know that my hubby's surname, I think some of those appear in RAF records, and there they are. So I'm searching the military searching in the military category, but I'm only searching the RAF records. I just think that's loads easier. So there you go. If it helps, great. If you already knew about it, well done, because as I said, I often forget this exists. So this was a good little exercise for me too, because I forget that you can actually do this, and sometimes it can be much quicker than going via all record sets. Gary, you're absolutely right. Could you add a tick all box? I was actually thinking that while I was ticking one of those RAF records. I think that would be really, really neat. I will ask the search team if they can add one of those. Or the product team. I think it would have to be the product team. Okay, so that's that. I hope that was useful. The last thing I wanted to look at today, actually, was, I flip through these. Okay. I want to have a quick look at Liverpool workhouse registers, because normally on Fridays Live, what we do is we look at a record collection that is already on Findmypast. It's not a new collection, but it's maybe one we haven't touched on in a while. And this week, I thought it would be good to look at the Liverpool workhouse registers. We do have a number of workhouse collections on Findmypast. All you would have to do is go to the all record sets page and type in workhouse to see which ones we've got. I cannot remember all of them off the top of my head. But if you've got Liverpool ancestors, I would recommend checking these out because they are really detail rich. Again, we've already touched upon this. It can be quite hard to read these things, but I still think they're important to find. And yeah. So I think we should give these a go, shall we? Okay, so there's just over 2 million of these in this collection, and they comprise admission and discharge registers, classification lists, registers of the sick, and then more documents as well. And they cover, I think, 7 different institutions. You do normally get a transcript and then also an original, and it's the original where you can really get the richness from these records. You get things like ages, names, and other little tidbits that I will touch upon in a moment. Most of them span from 1841 to 1928. A little bit of context as well. So in 1868, the Poor Law Amendment Act established that workhouse authorities should record in creed books each inmate's religious affiliation. And that would mean that while they were in the workhouse, each person would have their religious needs met, because apparently that was really important to them at the time. There were also some registers of children who were sent from Liverpool to live with foster parents in Canada. And it's also probably important to mention that these were digitised in a partnership with Liverpool City Council. I always like to say as well that when you're looking at a record set in isolation, think about which other record collections you can use to cross-reference and expand on the story. So my recommendations here would be the Liverpool parish records, also Catholic records for Liverpool, and of course things like censuses and newspapers. I think we should explore, shall we? So what I did here, this is a page from a particular record, and I used my shiny new married name to search these. And I just want to draw your attention really to some of the detail on this original image. So about halfway down this image, you get a chap called John Cameron Ayton. I learned that he was born in 1845, that he's a joiner, he's Presbyterian, and he was eventually discharged on the 17th of April, 1878, after being admitted on the 14th of March. But what's really intriguing as well is that there's actually another page. So again, if you look sort of midway down the list, I really should have put an arrow on which record we were looking at. But I also learned here that he was brought in from 44, I think it says Every Street. And there's also a name and an address for a contact or a friend. And you've got a chap called Mr. Hunter here of 162 Derby Road. Some of these entries actually remark that the person died in the workhouse. And obviously these are not my relatives, but when I was reading these, I kept imagining how it would feel for me to come across that. I think that would be really hard to find. There's actually also a young girl. If I just flip back to the previous slide. So about 5 entries from the bottom, there's a girl called Mary Ellen Alcock. She was born in 1866 and she's marked as an orphan. That's a really, if you're researching her, that is a key detail. And then you look at the dates as well. So I learned that she spent 2 months in this workhouse. So in terms of where this actually came from, this particular page, it's from an admission and discharge book and also marked as a creed register for Mill Road Hospital, formerly known as West Derby Union Workhouse. I really wanted to go and find out more about John Cameron Ayton and also about Mary Ellen Alcock as well. So I was then trying to think about where I would then look to find out how they came to be in the workhouse and then also what happened to them next. I got really invested in this, but of course, I was doing this at 3 o'clock this afternoon and I had a meeting at 3:30. So I didn't have a great amount of time on my hands to do this. Honestly, if it were up to me, I would spend my entire Friday and beyond prepping for these sessions, because you know what I'm like. I start researching something like this and I have to follow the rabbit down the rabbit hole. I think I have quite an addictive personality, and this is just one example of this. I have to do it because otherwise my curiosity is just not satisfied. I imagine a lot of you are the same. Okay, so what else did we find? Oh, that was the second page again. Okay, so I searched for John Cameron Ayton in the newspapers and I found 2 mentions of him with his full name. So this is from the Liverpool Mercury in 1875 and it reads, "If John Cameron Ayton does not call at 101 Mill Road, Everton, and take away his boxes, etc., in 3 days from this date, they will be sold to defray," I think that says, "expenses." And the name on the end is Thomas Grieve. The same notice was actually printed the next day in the same newspaper. So those were the 2 mentions. Now, I looked in the half an hour that I had left to prepare for this session. I can't find any solid concrete evidence of what happened to John after this and also before 1875. I can make some guesses. So he was already in this area, in the West Derby, Lancashire area in 1875. He'd clearly left some things at this address. Perhaps it was a boarding house. And then he'd moved on. Don't know why. And then 3 years later, he found himself in the workhouse for about a month, I think. So yeah, that was a really interesting one. And of course, I really want to go and find out more, like really badly. Now, I did also look at Mary Ellen as well. So I did find her baptism record. So This was from our Liverpool baptisms. Remember I said earlier, this was one of the record collections I would recommend looking at for cross-referencing the Liverpool workhouse records. So she was baptised in Liverpool. Her parents were Henry, and her mother was called Mary. I did also find them in the 1871 census. She's living with her grandmother, Ellen Rothwell. Her parents, Henry was born around 1828. He was a mariner, I think, although this was quite hard to read. I did have to adjust the brightness and the contrast on this record to try and read it a bit better. She's got several siblings as well. So at some point between this time and 1878, she was orphaned, and then she found herself in the workhouse. I did find a Henry Alcock born in Liverpool in our merchant seaman records. But again, as with John Cameron Ayton, this family story was also a bit of a mystery to me in the half an hour I had available to me to finish prepping for this. Yeah, I really want to know what happened. Because I remember coming across in my own family tree, my 2 times great grandfather, Hugh Jones, married, I think she was called Sarah. No, she wasn't called Sarah. She was called Hannah Molyneux. I talk about my Molyneux line a lot because it confuses me a great deal. But in, I think, the 1871 or 1881 census, they have a relative of Hannah's living with them, a young girl who I think was called Sarah Molyneux. And then I later found her in the next census in the workhouse, but I've not been able to track her after coming out of the workhouse, if indeed she did. So I look at these and I do often think of this young Sarah Molyneux, and I wonder whether, you know, she was in a similar situation to Mary. Was she orphaned? Was she placed from family member, then another family member, and then did she end up finding herself in the workhouse? I don't know, but I need to know all of this yesterday. I think I'm in good company with all of that, actually, which is really reassuring when you just need to know something yesterday, not tomorrow, not a week down the line, yesterday, not even today, but yesterday. So as you can see, there is so much detail to be found in the Liverpool workhouse records. If you do have ancestors from this area, I definitely recommend checking them out. There's loads there and there's so much to find. For example, you can find your ancestors' religion. You could learn that they were orphaned, their occupation. You could learn that sadly they passed away in the workhouse. You may even learn a previous address. And if you're doing a spot of fan research, Jen, I don't think is listening today, but I'm mentioning fan research just for you. I also mentioned it at the Savoy event last week because I know how much you love it. And if and when I do come back to this, which I would definitely like to, I think I may start with Thomas Grieve and working out the association between Thomas Grieve and John Cameron Ayton, for example. And then also the chap who was mentioned, who I think was a Mr. Hunter, mentioned as his friend, and the address and things like that. So I hope that's helpful. Look at us, we finished 7 minutes early. Aren't I good? I think my next slide is not there because for some reason it didn't save. It was just a thank you for joining us slide, but never mind. Okay, now let's have a look and see what you guys are talking about. I think you should paint that. Anya, Alice shoes into Alice walking boots for climbing out of the rabbit hole. Do we ever come out of the rabbit hole, Rowan? I don't think so. I don't think so. Yes, we're all encouraging each other. We are in good company. Thank you very much, Roxanne, for sharing the tobacco cards. I have a long list of things to do after I finish up today. I need to go and check out that guy's Wikipedia page. I need to go and check out the Wikipedia page about that medical condition. I need to go and look at these tobacco cards. Oh, this is my homework and I love it. Love it. I mean, granted, we always have a company meeting at 5 o'clock on a Friday that lasts for half an hour. Here's me thinking, skip it and just go and do this. No, I'd get told off. No, I'm not going to do that. It'll just have to be after that. Okay, lovely. Now, in terms of next week, so Rose, I think, is on the roster for next week. Rose will be back Really exciting. We love Rose. I think we've got Rose. Sure. I'm actually just going to check because I can never remember who is up next. I plan all of this in advance, you see. I have it all written out as to who's on the schedule and everything, and then I forget who's on it. It is Rose next week. I'm also organising some extra midweek sessions for November around remembrance. So I think Paul is going to do one, hopefully around oral history. And we've also just taken on a new team member I think she sits in Mary's team in content licensing, I think. Or data team. I think she sits in the data team. So her name is Charlotte, and I asked her today if she would be willing to come and talk to you about researching Royal Navy ancestors in records, because this is her area of expertise. And we don't talk about Royal Navy very much, so I thought this would be really good, and I hope it will be useful for you. So we're hopefully going to do those in November. As Liam says in the comments, please do send us your 1921 census discoveries to be in with a chance of winning a 3-month pro subscription to Findmypast. How exciting would that be? And remember, if you've already got a subscription, we'll just extend it for you. That's absolutely not a problem. You don't have to not have a subscription to enter this. So you can enter in one of two ways. You can do it on the blog, which is in the comments, linked there. You can also enter by emailing us at discoveries@findmypast.com. So you have two different options, and both entries from both routes will be entered into the random prize draw. Just send them in before the 3rd of October, and then I will pick a winner. Lovely. Okay, I think that's it for me for this week, actually. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, it's a pleasure to be able to come and talk to you. And my apologies for seeming a little bit sort of frazzled today. Technology just was not on my side, and neither was time. But I'm sure you've all felt that way at some point. So thank you very much, and I will catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh no, I need to end it. This is the thing. Technology is just not with me today. I'm clicking the wrong button. Bye bye.